Okay, we are back for another exciting episode of the hashtag Wednesday Match Play. And tonight's episode, I've been looking forward to tonight's episode for a long time. And it's actually kind of fun because I listened to Private Club Radio, which is Gabe's show, which is the focus and the point of tonight's conversation. And I've been listening to it for quite a long time. But the fun thing about it is that he and I connected via email through a completely unrelated topic. And I never connected the dots, but they were connected eventually, and here we are. And it's interesting, though, because Gabe's show is a podcast and not a video cast or a vlog. So it's interesting that the interviewer is now the interviewee in a totally different format. But he sounds the same, and I have to say, based on the pictures that I've seen, he looks the same. So, Gabe, welcome to the Wednesday Match Play.
Ricky, thanks for having me on. It's really good to be with you. Yeah, I'm glad we did get to finally connect and do this.
I can't tell you how much the show, like I literally sit there and listen, take notes, and I get obsessed with both the conversation and the banter that you have with the guests, but then the little things that I pick up, whether it's one sentence here or two sentences there, the amount of content that's being generated off of that show, but also the quality of the content. And one of the guests that's actually out of the office that I work in, we're going to talk about in a little bit tonight, but versus me explaining what Private Club Radio is, take a couple of minutes and just introduce us to the podcast and tell us what it is and where it all kind of started from your perspective.
Okay, absolutely. Well, Private Club Radio really came from the fact that there was nothing in the industry where you could sort of take it on the road, right? You couldn't drive or commute in your car and listen to a show and get content. There were some great trade publications out there, some great magazines in the industry, but there wasn't something that was on-demand content where if you're working out or if you're driving in the car, or you're shuffling paperwork at work. So I wanted to give people a way to get some education, to get some private club knowledge while they were doing things where they couldn't necessarily be reading. So I started it back in January. It is a podcast, like you mentioned. So it's on iTunes, it's on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and make it very simple for folks. It airs every Monday. And every Monday, we basically interview one kind of rock star in the private club industry, similar to what you do here on Wednesdays. We pick their brain to get the best knowledge. I like that you said that you always get a tidbit out of the show. I always do too, because the real good stuff is coming from our guests. And we've been really, really honored to have some industry rock stars on the show. For instance, we've had Jeff Morgan, the CEO of the Club Managers Association of America, Rick Coyne, who's the CEO of the Private Club Managers Association. We've had basically every rock star, every president, every real top echelon person in the industry on the show. And so it's really been an honor. It's so cool that the private club industry is so welcoming. And, you know, a lot of times I thought I would give people a call or an email and I wouldn't get any response back. No, it wasn't like that. I sent someone an email, and that day or the next day, they said, "Yeah, I'd love to be on the show." So it's been really, really joy to start putting it on for people.
That's really cool, and I didn't realize that it was every Monday because I subscribe to the podcast, right? Sure. So I know where to go to get the episodes, and I have to be honest, I don't listen to them up to date. I started at one.
That's the beauty of a podcast.
Yeah, so yeah. I've been listening to them in river, and Dave Ramsey I listen to on a daily basis, and he releases 3 hours a day, and it's just impossible to listen to all of his stuff. But
sure,
yours is just the right amount of time. And I actually I was in Vegas just a couple of weeks ago, and I'm driving, and I'm, to your point, listening to it that way. I throw headphones in, and I'm just able to listen and get the content and the education that I wouldn't be able to get from being able to read a magazine or what have you. So the ability for you have brought that to market is just fantastic. So I applaud your efforts on that, and the future is obviously extremely bright because club industry, I mean, the private club industry is extremely large and it's growing, and it's just there's so many people that you could pick out and interview. And
it's interesting because when I first started the show, I figured, well, you know, maybe I'll do 10 or 12 episodes, then I'll run out of something to say or people to talk about it. But it's absolutely opposite. Every time you know, we have an episode, it leads me to another question that I have to find the expert that can answer it. So we've got a lot of content to come.
So besides the podcast, and I actually don't know much about this, but this episode, as all episodes of the hashtag Wednesday Match Play, are presented by Eat Sleep Golf. And each week they send in a handful of questions that are things that I don't even think of. And one of the questions that they submitted was, what is the Millennials webinar? I'm a millennial, so technically I used to not be, and then they changed the age group. So now I mean, I'm not out there playing Pokemon Go or anything right
Sure.
now, but maybe tomorrow. I don't know. It seems to be something I can't ignore. But talk about the webinar. What is that, and where did that come from?
Sure. Well, it came out of a talk that I'm giving. I'm going to be at the Breakers in West Palm Beach, a beautiful property there, in August, and I'm going to be out in Thailand at the Asia Pacific Golf Summit. And both of those organizations had asked me, how can we have some sort of education for our members, for private club general managers and owners, on how to get millennials and the younger generations at our clubs. So I put together this education piece, and I realized, hey, people aren't going to necessarily be able to fly to Thailand to see it, or they're not going to be able to go to West Palm Beach here in Florida to see it. So I wanted to make it available to folks. So it's airing. We're going to do that on July 25th. So it's about a week and a half away. And it's going to be about a 1.5 hour or so webinar where we really dive deep into, hey, who is this generation? Why aren't they playing golf like they should be? Why aren't they joining private clubs like they should be? And how can we start to do that? And so not only just providing information, I really like to make my webinars what I call a do-inar. So there's going to be worksheets. We're going to actually leave with an action plan on so that general managers, club staff, marketing, and membership professionals can go back to their club and actually have an action plan in order to start winning some new members at their club.
That is awesome. Well, I didn't realize it was coming up that quick, so I am going to have to figure out to work that into my schedule. So next week is actually my birthday week, so I'll consider that the cherry on top at the end of my birthday. Now I'm curious. The private club piece is obviously what you do with private club radio. Have you ever considered public club radio? Because that's a totally different dynamic, but it could still work and be similar in terms of the content. So have you ever considered a public side?
It could totally work. And here's the thing. I do envision that at some point it's becomes more of a network. I'd like to have a roster of shows within the private club radio network, or the club radio network for that matter. And there could certainly be a show on public. There could be a show on agronomy. There could be a show on resorts and hotels. I do hope that happens. I wanted to make sure I nailed the first one and gave people some kick-ass content on the first go around, and hopefully we'll be able to do some things like that in the next year or so.
That is awesome. Well, you were definitely doing that with the content. So now you talked about golf and talking about millennials and why they don't play as much golf as they should. And one of the things from where I sit is Troon's trying to align themselves with being more than just golf. We had a national television commercial that came out a few months ago, and one of the things in that commercial said Troon is more than just golf. And it is. We have F&B, we have tennis, we have equestrian. There's a lot of things to it. So to you, from where you sit and all of the private club stuff that you're doing, the research you're doing, etc., besides golf, what are some of the things that you look for in a private club that you have seen have been successful in the private club space?
Golf is always going to be sort of that anchor, but for a club to really be relevant today, we have to appeal to the entire family. I mean, for instance, women are really the ones writing the checks nowadays, and we need to have activities for women and for children at these clubs and make it a family experience. Golf, back in the day, back in the 50s, 60s, whatever, golf and private clubs were an old boys club, right? They sat around, they played around a golf, played cards, drank some cognac, smoked some cigars, and the kids and the wife were doing whatever. Well, that's completely changed. So clubs need to focus on the whole family. How do you do that? There's a lot of ways that I've come to learn from talking to some of these amazing people on the show. Fitness and wellness probably being the number one focus for private clubs and for clubs in general. And not only just having a gym or a place to lift some weights, but really making this facility a total wellness facility. So some of the more forward-thinking clubs have spas, and they're doing all kinds of Pilates and group exercises, and they have these big sort of open spaces because that's what younger people want nowadays when they're working out. Beyond the spa and wellness, clubs are moving more to like casual dining rather than, the very stuffy private club setting that you normally think of with a jacket and the whole thing. Clubs are getting a little bit more casual. And so, so basically if you look at the trends that are happening in our society, we sort of start to mimic those things and be successful. In terms of activities, there's things like bocce ball and pickleball and these other inter-club activities that can sort of get other people involved, can appeal to a much wider age demographic. For instance, at my club, I like to play bocce ball and have a glass of wine with my friends, and I can spend an hour and be, and then be back to my house for dinner with the kids. So so being more family inclusive, children inclusive, thinking about activities for children, summer camps, I've been to St. Andrews in Boca Raton, had an amazing setup where they have an arcade and they've got the basketball hoops and everything right inside. It was just like walking into an arcade. And so catering to the whole family, that's a big trend right now.
That's really cool. So I assumed you were a member at a club. What club are you a member at?
I'm a member here in Tampa. It's called Carrollwood Country Club.
Okay.
It's a larger club. It's a younger club. I'd say our average age member is probably between 45 and 50, which is pretty young for most clubs. It's like I said, kind of a larger club. We have about 1,200 members, including social, tennis, and golf. So it's a fairly large club. We've got 54 holes of golf. It's a really nice layout, and I enjoy getting there at least a couple times a week if I can.
That's really cool. Awesome. So you have a lot of guests that you've interviewed over the. I mean, it's been, how many episodes have you released? I don't even know the total.
We're at 28 right now.
28. Okay. So you've had a lot of, some big names. You've already mentioned a couple of them. How far in advance are you booking dates? And I look at that and kind of comparing it to my own kind of schedule, because I'm booking dates 2-3 months in advance. How far in advance are you booking dates?
It depends on the guest, but I'd say the longest we're booking out is about 3 months. I generally have about a month that I know ahead of time what the schedule is going to be, and I'll release that on the website so people kind of know what's going on and who to expect. Since it's the summertime, I sort of got a little bit behind, so I scrambled, to be completely honest with you. I got to the point where I only had one show like in the can, like ready to go. And so I actually, that's when I contacted Jim McLoughlin at Troon and a few others. And I said, I scheduled like 8 interviews. So now I've got like a big, like 8 or 9 weeks worth of episodes ready to go.
And one of the things and I'm glad that you say that, because I'm in conversations right now with the team at Eat Sleep Golf, and maybe not doing these as live, but doing them, they'll obviously be live from a recording perspective, but to then have 10 of them in the hopper, so to speak, they release every Wednesday, regardless if the guest is there, if we have technical difficulties or what have you. And I think that we're shifting to that, and you might just be the motivation that's going to push me across.
Well, here's the thing, Ricky, like, what happens if you get sick on a Wednesday night, or your children or wife needs attention or something,
or I'm going to a concert next Wednesday and
there
I have to cancel next Wednesday show. So that's not a bad idea. So we haven't really met in person. This is as close as we're going to get until we actually do. But how many of your guests have you met in person, or any of them for that matter?
So I've met quite a bit, just because I've been going to a lot of the industry events, some of the conferences, like the CMAA conference, the National Club Association conference in Chicago. I've met some people after I've interviewed them, and some people I met in advance of actually meeting them. And I always like to meet them, just to put a name, a face to a name, and get that rapport. But yeah, luckily I haven't been turned away when I went up to them after we've had an interview. They all liked what we did, so they were happy to see me, luckily.
So now you wrote a book, and I have to know more about that, because I didn't even realize that until just this week. Tell me about the book and where that process started, and what encouraged you to write a book, and just kind of 10,000-foot view of what it's like to be an author of a book.
Well, it was a tiring process to become an author. But here's my motivation for anyone who actually wants to write a book. I had a newborn at the time, and what I did is I made sure that I wrote for 1 hour while he was taking a nap. And I wrote for 1 hour for 60 days, and I had a book. It was really that simple. So whether I had something to say that day or not, I just forced myself to actually put pen to paper or really type it out. The book is called Moving Targets: Creating Engaging Brands in an On-Demand World. And a lot of it is how to reach the millennial consumer. The book is not so much golf-based, although there are a few stories related to what I do and my company in there. It's really more broadly based on how do you reach the younger generation who's got a completely different psyche shift. And not only the younger generation, but really we all are, with mobile technology, with the speed that everyone is moving at nowadays, with all the access to information and the bombardment of ads. How do you cut through that clutter? And that's what the book's about.
That's awesome. Well, I haven't read it, but I need to because that
I'll
sounds
send you a copy.
right
Yeah,
up my alley. That would
sure.
be awesome. Now, it wouldn't be fair if it wasn't an audio copy because, I mean, that's,
I need to do that actually. Yeah, I
you
need to
have
make
to
the
be the
audio
one that
version.
reads it because your voice is awesome. So, and I love your setup here. Like, it sounds exactly like the show. Like, I'm just using freaking iPhone headphones here. So you're
Well, I
definitely
like
on
that you
another
think my
level.
voice is awesome. When I first started the show, I was like, I hate my voice. I think everybody hates their voice when they first hear it. So it's just you get used to it is really what happens.
I've been doing this show for almost 4 years collectively with the Friday Foursome, and I still hate my voice. So hopefully that'll go away one day. Now, you said talking about marketing to millennials and East of Golf, that's a good segue because they asked, what are a couple of key things golf clubs need to consider when marketing to millennials? Because you're right, they're not playing golf the way that the old private club members used to, and they want the USB in the golf cart. They want to listen to music when they're playing golf, etc. So what are some of the key things that you need when marketing to millennials?
Yeah, great question, Eats Lead Golf. The number one question, the number one answer to that question is that you really need to focus on the experience in your marketing and advertising. So much more so than any other generation, they're much more about unique, once in a lifetime experiences. So rather than owning a Ferrari, they'd rather have a once in a lifetime trip to Bali, for instance. So you actually need to shift that narrative in the way we market to them to start to focus on those things. And the way you do that is in copywriting. A lot of it comes down to copywriting and presenting things. So if you look at, like, for instance, your basic ad for a golf club, they might say something very logical, right? So championship 18-hole course, PB die designed. We have 10 hard true tennis courts. We have a full banquet facility. And it's just a bullet list of things, right? Well, that's a very logical way to advertise your club. And if you look at, that's a dime a dozen, right? I could look at, hundreds of ads that look exactly like that. And you could give you examples of that. But people don't actually buy for logical reasons, especially not nowadays. And a luxury purchase like a private club membership, for instance, is a very emotional purchase, anything like that. So, like, I always tell the people, why did you buy your last car? Did you buy it because it has more steel per square inch than its competitor? That would be a very logical reason, right? It has more metal, so it must be better, right? That's logic. But we buy for emotional reasons. Like, we felt good behind it. We thought we could pick up chicks in this car. We thought that our friends would think we're cool. Or we just, it's better for the environment. Those are all emotional reasons. So we need to shift the narrative when we're marketing. Instead of marketing to logical reasons to become a private club member or to have people come to our golf course, we need to start to shift that to the emotional reasons. Maybe I feel safe at this club, especially with for instance, all the shootings and things that have been craziness that's going on around the world. A club is actually a very safe environment for a family, and that's something that we can start to capitalize on. Doing it in a earnest way. I mean, we don't want to make things up or stoke the fire, but doing it, in an honest way. And so appealing to some of those emotions.
That might be the best answer that I could have ever expected out of that question. And I had mentioned before we went live, Bill O'Brien in the office at Troon. And one of the things that he likes to tell me a lot, because I sit behind a computer and I'm busy trying to tell the story of Troon and all of the Troon facilities worldwide. And he always says that I'm a good storyteller. And I love that you answered it that way. And I'm hoping that he's watching. And if not, I'm going to make sure he watches tomorrow because he needs to hear that answer. And sure. I just have a feeling he's going to have a smile on his face from the second that you start answering that question. So very good. So now, speaking of Troon, you recently had Jim McLoughlin on from the Troon Privé, the division of Troon that manages our private facilities. Segue. I'm sure that's why he was the pick versus somebody on the Daily Fee side. But Jim is a great guy, and he is just a fantastic person to talk to. And as soon as the interview was over, he came running over, and he was super excited. And he said that he talked longer than he probably should. But I know that episode's not live yet, so don't give us any spoiler alerts. But what was that conversation like, and was Jim a good guest?
Jim was a fantastic guest, and I'm not just saying that because you worked there. What I really liked is he had sort of he approached it from a completely different perspective. There's definitely certain themes that I hear over and over from people in the industry just because it's, these are trends. But he really took a unique approach that I really appreciated. And he absolutely has some nuggets in there that I make everyone when I have something really good, I'll make a little meme out of it, or a quote box that I'll put on social media, and he's got about 5 of them that are going to happen.
That's awesome. That's very cool. I'll make sure he'll watch this tomorrow too. I've got there's a laundry list of people that I need to send this to make sure they watch. And you had mentioned that you had some folks from different organizations on the show, and the CMAA is one of them. But one of the things is I was looking through the list of even the episodes that I haven't listened to yet, is I've noticed a handful of people that write for the Boardroom Magazine. And the Boardroom Magazine is just a fantastic publication. And Lynn LaFondaluca is one of the, and I had mentioned to you before we went live that I'll email some authors from time to time. And she and I have created a pretty fun little back and forth relationship through a couple of articles that she's been on your show. Mm-hmm. So that being said, do you read the magazine? And from that, past the boardroom, what are some other publications, blogs, etc., that you would recommend to someone that wants to learn more about the private club space?
Yeah, great question. I will admit that I don't have a subscription, but because I'm at a lot of these events, they're almost always have copies of the magazine there, so I always grab them. Yeah, so I do read the magazine. And they have some things online as well. We've had a number of guests, like you mentioned, Lynn LaFondaluca, who spoke about catering and trends happening in the food and beverage side. We've had Bill Booth, which was one of my favorite episodes, and he is a consultant for technology in clubs, and there was some real gold in that interview. And we have had Michael Crandall is another one who came on and talked about general managers and what is the makeup of a great general manager. That was probably our first or second most played episode, actually. But the Boardroom Magazine is a great publication. In addition to that, Club Trends is a magazine put out co-branded by the McMahon Group and by the National Club Association that's really tracking the trends in the private club industry. Let's see, there's another podcast, Club Sense, that I listen to. So if you're listening to my podcast, once you're done with that, check out Club Sense. That's another good one. And let's see, PGA has a couple nice publications as well. And let's see, there's a lot of newsletters. Oh, Private Club Advisor, that's a good one. And they're privateclubadvisor.com. And then masterclubadvisors.com, I believe, is their website. They put out another publication that's pretty cool as well.
There are only so many hours in the day. Like, you filled up my week.
Consumption.
Like, yeah, my goodness. So I noticed that you're passionate about travel, and that is something that I am extremely passionate about. I'm getting ready to go on a European trip. Every year we take a European beer trip, which is we're obsessed with craft beer, and we got to go to Europe to get, like last year we went to Oktoberfest, and the year before that we were in Brussels, et cetera. And this year we're actually going to be in Brussels for Belgian Beer Weekend. So
nice.
It's like the shift for us has been going to these big beer festivals, yet we've never been to the Great American Beer Festival in our own country. But besides the point, you're really big into travel. Where are some of the places that you like to visit? And are there any places that you want to see that you haven't had the chance to go to yet?
Okay, great questions. My wife would not be happy with me if I didn't say Ecuador, which is her home country. But it is a beautiful country, and what makes Ecuador so interesting is it has 4 very unique regions. It has the Amazon rainforest, it has the mountains, the Andes Mountains, that's my favorite part, but don't tell her, because she's from the coast, and the coastal people and the mountain people, they don't necessarily get along. They each think that they're better than the other. So she lives in the coast where it's very hot, especially being on the equator. You can imagine how hot it is. And then they have the Galapagos Islands. So that's a really fantastic country. I love South America. I love Asia. I lived in the Philippines. I took a year off. I lived in a little tiki hut for a year right on the beach in the Philippines. That was an incredible experience. So Asia and the Pacific, that's a beautiful area. And then one of the more unique places, if you're in Europe, Ricky, I was in Spain, and I was able to take a couple hour flight and went to Morocco. It might have even been about an hour flight. And that was just so unique. The culture was so completely different, that I would definitely recommend checking out. They had snake handlers and monkeys jumping on people and this beautiful market. And it was very different. The places I'd like to go, Greece and Turkey is probably number 1 on my list. I'd like to take that trip. And I like to see India would be number 2.
Very cool. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned Morocco because I've not been to Morocco yet, but True manages a handful of facilities there, and you wouldn't think of that as a golf destination.
Cool.
But there are at least 5, if not 6, facilities that we manage in Morocco. So
It might not give you a golf cart; it might be a camel.
Now that would be an experience.
That would be pretty cool.
So, are there any significant differences between marketing to private clubs as opposed to public clubs? Obviously, there is, but what are some of those key differentiations from where you sit and how you would consult to a facility that's on either side of the fence? And obviously, it's going to be more the private club, but what are some of the key differences for somebody that's looking at the differentiations between private and public from a marketing perspective?
Well, I mean, public is just going to have to come down to a lot of times daily fee, right? So how do we then capture them after they've spent their 30 to say $80 or $90 playing at a daily fee? Like, how do we get them back? That's a much tougher question. Whereas private clubs, of course, they're going to come back, right? So that's probably the main difference. With private clubs, you're again selling more of the experience and more of that emotional side. And it's because it's an emotional purchase. It's not logical. It's not logical to spend $75,000 initiation fee and then another $1,000 or so a month, between your dues and your spend at the club. So, there's a lot more like retargeting I would do if I was doing a public club, I think. So I don't know if your listeners use any kind of retargeting, things like Facebook, for instance. If you don't know about it, listeners, you can just certainly Google Facebook retargeting and find out what the heck this guy is talking about. I'd probably do a lot more paid search and paid ads if I was marketing a public club. In a private club, you're just going after a little bit of a different clientele, the top 5%, 3%, 1%, whatever it is in your market. So you're going to be much more into the luxury magazines, the higher end publications in your area, maybe doing some more direct mailing if it's a high end looking piece. So definitely there's quite a difference. But if we can get more people playing golf, no matter if they're playing a public course or a private course, it's great to get people out there playing the game.
I love it because I can't play enough golf, and I was talking to somebody yesterday about the Open Championship this week, and I'm Tiger's biggest fan. If you can't tell, he's above me.
Yeah, I've seen a few of your shows, and you're a Tiger fanboy.
Yes, that's a good word for it. He's not playing this week, so I'm like, I'm going to play golf this weekend. So it just happens to be round 2 of the True and Corporate Championship, so I didn't have a choice. I have to play.
Wow.
But I'm so enthralled by him and his career that I'm a golfer first, a Tiger fan second, and golf, because Tiger is what got me into the game, and I'm hook, line, and sinker. And if I play bad, I can't wait to go play better, and if I play great, I can't wait to go see if I can do it again. So
it's an interesting game. Like you could have a really crummy round and have that one shot, and that's what you remember.
Yep. So past travel and golf, obviously, that's something that's a big part of your life. What keeps you motivated? What keeps you going?
Well, I got 2 young kids. I have a 3-year-old and a 4-month-old, so they keep me going. I got to bring a paycheck home for those 2. I love reading. I love music. So yeah, I have my hobbies, and I play a lot of golf and tennis. Tennis is probably the second sport I play the most.
See, I've never played tennis, and I feel like it's something but I'm addictive to my personality, that as soon as I play it, and even if I'm bad at it, which I'm going to be, I'm just going to want to go play and get good at it. So
I doubt you're going to be that bad. You look like a pretty athletic guy.
So golf, what's your index? I mean, how many strokes do I get when we play?
Oh, I don't think you're probably giving. I'm a 13. I'm a 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The guy that I'm playing on Saturday in the second round is a 12, so I have to give him some shots in a match play. I'd never played match play until last week in my first round, and I had to give shots in that, and I was like, wait a minute, you're already winning. You haven't even got yet. You've got a 4-shot lead. This is crazy.
Before I had kids, I was about a 7 or 8, but kids will do that.
Kids will do that to you. So I didn't tell you before we started. This is going to go super fast. We're almost out of time. But before, you had mentioned it briefly, but your company, you've got your own company that is completely separate from Private Club Radio. So tell me more about Shake Creative. Like, what is that? I'm assuming that it's marketing and Private Club marketing, but it might have some other things. So give us the 10,000-foot view of what your company is all about.
Yeah, well, Shake Creative is a marketing company that's really specific to private clubs. We specialize in private clubs. We have clubs around the country that we work with. being based here in Tampa, Florida, a lot of our clubs are in Florida, but we have them all over the world. Some of the services we offer very high-end design. We do a lot of social media management for our clients. We do a lot of printing and direct mailing for our clients. And basically, it's a very targeted approach. So everything we do has a real specific focus to it. We want to make sure that we're reaching the target demographic that's right for that particular club. And I enjoy doing that. We launched another product from Shake Creative called Course Driver, which is a mobile application, and it's an application specific to clubs. Each club can brand it to their club. People can, it has things you would normally think of out of an app, but a little bit more. So it does GPS. You can keep score on it. It has live satellite weather, which is important here in Florida. We get those 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock thunderstorms, and hey, should I, leave the course or stay? People can order food from the phone. The beauty for the club is that they can then reach back to anyone who's ever been a guest and downloaded it for one of the cool features it has, and send a private message or a direct message right to them. And then they can segment it because, again, everything we're doing very targeted. We might want to say a specific message just for the people that went to the cancer charity tournament. And we might want to say something different to, of course, our members. So we can actually segment the communication through the app. And so it's a very powerful feature.
Wow, that is really cool. I had no idea. I need to do some more research on Shake Creative, completely separate from Private Club Radio, because Private Club Radio is what got me in. That was the hook, and now there's more I got to learn. So,
gotcha. Yeah.
Now exactly. So before I let you go, we do this segment that's called, and we've changed the name, and I'm sorry, but I'm just changing it going forward. It's going to be called the Back Nine, because I used to call it the Lightning Round, and then it was old rapid fire and real quick. I'm done.
I like Back Nine.
Back Nine, because it's the 9 questions, so it makes more sense. Because a lightning round, go play 9 holes, whatever. Completely separate. I just need to make the decision. Back Nine going forward. So not necessarily about Private Club Radio, but it's more about you and golf and that stuff. So are you ready for your Back Nine?
Let's do it.
What driver is in your bag?
Oh my gosh, I'm almost embarrassed, but I hit it straight. It's a Cleveland from like circa 2005.
Awesome. And I think I know exactly what that club looks like too. That's awesome. So I know the answer to this already, because it's the club that you're a member at. But past the club that you're a member at, is there anywhere else that you play a lot of golf? Is there one course that when you're not playing your home club that you're playing?
My favorite course in Tampa is Tampa Palms. It's beautiful. Part of the course is an Audubon Preserve. Beautiful course.
Awesome. Very cool. Have you ever had an ace?
Never had an ace. I've seen my dad have a few, which broke my back. He once took like 13 skins from like 9 guys that we were all doing. Yeah.
That's awesome. I've seen 2 in my life, and one was on a par 4, and it's one of those things. Like I've never had one either, and it's like I better get one, because I'm just gonna play par 3 courses until I get one. Like I need one. So what is the one course anywhere in the world that you have not played that is atop your bucket list? That one place that you've got to see, and don't say Augusta, because that's not fair. So what is the one course that you want to play that's you've not had the chance to tee it up on yet?
Yeah, I want to go to China and see Mission Hills, which has 12 courses on it. They're all built by different top golfers. You've got a Palmer course, I think a course built by Tiger, one by Annika Sorenstam, and the list goes on and on and on. So it would be a week-long vacation.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that like one round for all 12? Like, does that count? Like, just that would be a cool experience. And Hank Haney actually has an academy there. I'm not guaranteeing that I can make that connection, but if the opportunity ever presents itself that you're going to be near there or going there, I would potentially be able to introduce you to him and make sure that you play, if not all 12, the ones that you want to play the most. So now this answer, it's fun because it changes with every guest. What is your favorite golf movie?
Oh man, I had one prepared for this too. It was actually a Disney movie with it was about Francis Willett or whatever his name is. The kid who he won the U.S. Open as an amateur at and nobody had ever heard of him. He grew up a poor kid and nobody thought he could do anything. And he won. I can't remember the name of the movie. I should have looked that up before. I knew the question was coming.
What that is too. I can't wait for the day that somebody says like The Legend of Bagger Vance, because that's just never gonna happen. Caddyshack is typical. I don't say, a tie between Tin Cup and Happy Gilmore, but now I want to know what this movie is.
I'll make sure that I tweet it out and tag everybody here.
Yeah,
so.
please do. So speaking of, segue, get out of my head. The next question, because of Twitter, and you do have a ton of followers on Twitter, and you use it to promote the private club industry, in 140 characters or less, pretending that I have no idea what private club radio is, tell me why I should why I should listen to private club radio.
Private Club Radio is the first and only program dedicated to news, events, education for those working in the private club industry.
I have a feeling you've said that before because that's all over your website, and I love reading that time and time again. So we just finished playing 18 holes, and we're going to the 19th. What's your drink of choice?
Ooh, I'm going old fashioned.
Ooh, that's a good. That is a, when done right, that is a delicious drink.
Yeah, you're right. It does have to be done right. You don't want people mashing the fruit in there. I actually have a buddy, if anyone wants to see it, he does daily old fashioned. He drinks one every single day and posts a picture of it. It's pretty cool.
That is really cool. Where does he post them?
On Instagram is his main thing. I think Twitter also, he just kind of, duplicates or whatever. But yeah, Instagram. Daily old fashioned.
I need to. Does he make them or does he order them out somewhere? Does it
both?
matter?
Yeah, and then he'll tell you like why it's good or bad and what's different about it. Yeah.
So awesome! What a cool idea.
Yeah.
So now you've seen episodes of this show in the past, and you see him staring over me, smiling. And I know that I don't want the answer to this question to end our great conversation here this evening, but why or why not do you think that my man Tiger breaks Jack's record?
Oh man, gosh, I don't want to have to do this to you, but I think he's not going to. And I think it's all in his head right now, honestly.
Now, side question, part B. If he comes back next year, because I doubt he's coming back this year. If he comes back next year, granted he's 41, but he's healthy, and he's finally healthy. Could that change your answer?
Only if EA made it Tiger Woods golf again. I think that's his only chance.
Now, I'm glad that you said that.
Do it in a virtual world.
I remember when I bought Tiger Woods EA Sports in 1999
yes.
on PC. Yep.
I've
literally bought every one since. When they took him off the game, I refused to buy it, and somebody got it for me for Christmas last year, and I barely play it. I'm like, whatever, Tiger's not in it.
Good for you. I used to play it like a sicko. We played it $10 a hole at one point.
Oh, no way.
2003, and it would get wild, about 8 of us, long nights.
That is an awesome idea, because in 2014, I was actually the #1 ranked player in the world, and I had a record of 366-0. I was unbeaten.
You would have made some money there.
Right. Well,
of course, that's like 10 times what we normally play for $1 a hole when we're actually playing real golf. That's what made it ridiculous. Well, hey, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. And the final question of your #Wednesday match play is, what is next? I mean, you got a lot of things working, a lot of things moving, and I've loved this conversation. But what is next for you and for Private Club Radio? Well, I just want to continue providing a great product. That's my main desire, more so than anything, more so than getting sponsors. Anything, I want to give people some great, fantastic education. Like we mentioned before, I think in a year or so's time, we might actually have some other great show hosts come in and start a network. That is awesome. Well, I'm excited to see what's next. I'm excited to get caught up. I've got a handful of episodes left to get caught up, and maybe my motivation is to get caught up to where my next one that I listen to the day that it comes out is the Jim McLoughlin interview. And I'm sitting here taking notes, and I can't thank you enough again, Gabe, for coming on the show. This has been a great conversation, and I had mentioned that how your episodes always have 1 or 2 things that I pull out, and I'm sitting here thinking there's about 17 things that you said that I want to tweet, like quotes from the show. So I'm gonna have to go back and re-listen to this and make sure. You're very kind. Well, I want to say thank you for you doing this each Wednesday for the Wednesday match play. I really enjoy it, and I can't wait to see the next guest coming down the pipe. Awesome. Very cool. Well, as always on the Wednesday match plays, you have to remember to eat, sleep, golf.